Hi folks, so this is my second podcast following on from last week's first episode. I'm recording on Tuesday evening, the 16th of January, so game week 3 is behind us and we're looking ahead now to game week 24. What I'm going to do in this one is, first of all, I'm going to look back quickly on my points from game week 23, how it went. Then I'm going to update the watch list. If anyone was listening to last week's, I went through the watch list in a lot of detail. I won't go through in as much detail this week. I'll just talk about a few players who I've added after game week 23 and a few players that I've removed. After that then I'll finish off by talking about my game week 24 transfers. I've already made 2 transfers, so I'll talk about those towards the end. And I've got another transfer in mind as well for later in the week, so I'll talk about that as well. So just to start off, game week 23, I went out for the day on Saturday, so I knew I was going to be out of the house for most of the day, so I switched off the phone and did the match of the day challenge, which is where you just avoid all the results all day and watch match of the day live then. Now, every time I've done that in the past, it's been a pretty painful experience. So you've got your FPL points all crammed into an hour and a half, and you're just waiting game by game for the points to come, and in my case they usually don't come. So match of the day on Saturday night was a pretty frustrating experience. I only had, out of the 11 players that played for me in game week 23, only 4 of them returned more than 2 points. So that was Alonso, Salah, Firmino, and I had Harry Kane captain for his brace. So apart from that, it was a pretty frustrating game week. I ended on 63 points. Watching match of the day, Chelsea was the last game, and I had Alonso, Hazard and Christensen. So I was kind of banking on those three to deliver for me right at the end of match of the day. And it came up that Christensen had come on, but it didn't say what minute he'd come on. I knew it was roughly around the 30-minute mark, so I was praying that it was enough to get him the clean sheet point. So once match of the day was over, then I logged into FPL and seen that he only got 1 point, and I think he played 57 minutes. So that kind of summed up my game week. So 1 point from Christensen, and again 1 point from Hazard. For anyone who follows me on Twitter will know my problems with Hazard. I mean, got rid of him on free hit last week and he got 10 points. Got him back this week then and just won. So he's one of the players he's already gone. I've booted him out of the team this week, so I'll talk later about who's come in for him. I've just had enough. I know Chelsea's fixtures are good, but I just couldn't look at him any longer in my team. The frustration he's caused since game week 16, it's not even funny anymore. So yeah, 63 points was just above average. It was a red arrow for me, so I went from about 3,500 overall. I slipped down to 5,937. So the most disappointing thing about game week 23 for me was, as most of you know, I played my free hit in game week 22 and I felt it went quite well, but then game week 23 almost undone the work I had got, the points I got last week, because anyone who loaded up on West Ham and Spurs, the likes of Son, Arnautovic and Eriksen, they all delivered in game week 23 and I didn't have any of them. So as I say, if I hadn't played my free hit in 22, I probably would have had Son and Arnautovic this week. So I mean, it probably balances itself out, but that's why I got the red arrow this week, because I didn't have the likes of Arnautovic, Lanzini, Son and Eriksen. So those who didn't play their free hit in 22 were rewarded this week by having those West Ham and Spurs players. So in my case, that was very frustrating for me. I'll jump into, I'm not going to dwell on my points too much for game week 23, because it was, as I say, it was pretty frustrating, red arrow. So I'm just looking to move on now and get back to basics and improve things in game week 24. So I've saved 2 free transfers. As I say, I've used 2 of them already, and I'm probably going to do at least 1 more. I was always going to do a bit of surgery going into game week 24. I felt my squad needed a bit of a shake up. So I'm going to jump into the transfer page now, and I'm just going to talk about maybe 4 or 5 players I've added to the watch list after the weekend, and 4 or 5 that I've removed. So usually when I update the watch list, I go into it first and I remove, once I've watched all the highlights, I remove any players I'm no longer interested in the short term. So 5 players I've removed this week are Zaha, Lallana, Everton's new striker Tosun, Morata from Chelsea, and Choupo-Moting at Stoke. So Zaha, I mean, I've already got Loftus-Cheek, and I'm expecting him to come back from injury, hopefully in game week 24, and definitely by 25. So I'm expecting him to get back into the Palace side, and I'll more than likely just use him as a first sub for the next couple of weeks. But I'm not really interested in bringing in Zaha when I've got Loftus-Cheek already, and Zaha hasn't been doing much recently either. He hasn't really impressed me when I've been watching highlights in the games and stuff like that. So that's why he's gone from the watch list this week. Lallana's gone as well. So obviously he didn't start for Liverpool against Man City. I expected him to come in. I mentioned him on last week's pod. Now that Coutinho's gone, I thought Lallana might get a start against City, but it's probably due to the fact he's coming back from injury as well. But Oxlade-Chamberlain started in an advanced role, and he was very impressive. So the Ox is someone I've added to the watch list this week. I'm not going to be bringing him in anytime soon. I've already got Firmino and Salah, so I don't really fancy the Liverpool triple up. But I do think Ox is worth keeping an eye on. He was very impressive against City. He took his goal very well. Klopp's obviously a big fan of him, and Klopp's probably going to take him to the next level in his career. So definitely one to keep an eye on. And if you've only got maybe one Liverpool player, he's definitely one to monitor. I wouldn't be going to getting him in yet. We need to see how much game time he's going to get. Is he going to start every week with Lallana pushing for a place there as well? So definitely one to keep an eye on though. So Lallana's gone from the watch list, as is Everton striker. As soon as they signed him, priced at 7.5, I think he is, I added him straight to my watch list. But watching Spurs Everton at the weekend, Everton were just awful. And looking a bit more into their stats as well, they're ranked 20th in a lot of stats, things like shots on target and things like that. So they're offering absolutely nothing going forward, which doesn't bode very well for the new striker. Even with the likes of Sigurdsson and Rooney to create, you'd be expecting a lot more from them, but they were pretty toothless against Spurs. So I have absolutely no interest in Tosun until I see an improvement from Everton in an attacking sense. Morata, I mean, in game week 23 I had 3 Chelsea players. I had Alonso, Christensen and Hazard. Obviously now Hazard's gone from my side, but Morata's gone from my watch list as well. I think it's 3 blanks in a row now. He's just not firing, and he's not worth the output at the moment. Chelsea in general haven't really been scoring goals. They're okay defensively, but Conte's even been saying the issue is they haven't been scoring enough goals. So I'm not interested in Morata, even though with Hazard, obviously they've got good fixtures. That could change very quickly, and if you want to get in ahead of the curve, maybe it might pay off to keep the likes of Hazard or Morata. But for me, he's out of form. He's missing one-on-one chances. He's of no interest to me at the moment. I'm happy with my headers up front, Kane and Firmino. Choupo-Moting, I watched Man U Stoke last night. Choupo-Moting I had earlier in the season. I was just interested to see where he would play. Would he get starting again up front for Stoke under Paul Lambert? I mean, Lambert wasn't really in charge last night, so he could get back up front in the coming weeks. Crouch started last night. I mean, the Stoke side were, on paper and in the game last night, they were just very, very poor. So I really think they're going to struggle to stay up this season. Lambert's not the most inspiring managerial appointment there either. I know he definitely wasn't anywhere near their first choice. So be interesting to see how he does. Some of the players, I mean, they could get a bit of a bounce with him in charge, but I won't be touching any Stoke players anytime soon. Choupo-Moting only played, I think he played around 59 minutes, 60 minutes. I'm not sure if he got the 2 points. I know he came off very close to the 60-minute mark last night, so I mean, he was playing. He wasn't playing up front. Crouch was playing up front, and Choupo-Moting was as poor as any of the other players last night. So he's gone from my watch list as well. I'm going to talk about 4 or 5 players I've added now. So I already mentioned Oxlade-Chamberlain. He's one to keep an eye on. Another player I've added after game week 23 is Aaron Ramsey. He's coming back from injury. Arsenal are in a bit of a mess at the moment. They were beaten 2-1 by Bournemouth. They're probably going to lose Sanchez soon. But Ramsey's the only Arsenal player on my watch list now at the minute. So I'll be interested to see how he comes back into the side and how he does. We could see him playing in a pretty advanced role in behind Lacazette. Now that Wilshere and Xhaka are playing in the holding roles, Ramsey could be pushed on and he could become a really good option. I think he's about 6.9 million. So he's definitely someone just to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks. Another one, I mentioned Sanchez, so it looks like he's going to move somewhere. At the moment, it looks like it's going to be Man United. There's talk of Chelsea. Obviously, there's been talk of City as well, but he's on my watch list, not because he plays for Arsenal, but it's just the potential if he moves, especially if he goes to Man U. He's going to be very high on my watch list if he goes there, because you would expect him to play every week at United, whereas he might not if he's at City, or even Chelsea for that matter. So Sanchez is on the watch list solely because of the potential of what he might deliver when he moves somewhere. So it might not happen this week, it might not happen at all, but let's see. As I say, definitely if he goes to Man U. I don't have any Man U players at the moment. If Sanchez goes there, I'm more than likely going to be looking to get him in. Expensive, but I think playing in that United team, he could get a lot of points. Another player I've added to the watch list after the weekend is Lanzini. So I've already got Arnautovic on the watch list from last week. Lanzini and Arnautovic were both extremely impressive against Huddersfield in the 4-1 win. So Arnautovic is basically playing up front because Carl and Chicharito are not playing. So he's an out of position option. I'm just going to jump into his stats here over the last couple of weeks. Since David Moyes has taken over, Arnautovic has been superb. I think he's got about 6 goals. Yeah, where is he now? So you can never find these players when you want to find them. So yeah, just looking at Arnautovic's stats over the last couple of weeks, I mean 6 goals in his last 8 games and 3 assists thrown in there as well. So he's flourishing under Moyes, and he's a player I really like. I've had him in fantasy before when he was at Stoke, and he done well for me. So he's always a player I keep an eye on. Lanzini I think he scored twice against Huddersfield, so he's playing in behind Arnautovic. From what I could see from the highlights at the weekend, both of those players were the highest, the furthest up the pitch for West Ham, and they caused Huddersfield big problems. They're both very creative players, and I mean they can score goals as well. So definitely looking at those two, Lanzini and Arnautovic, going forward. They've got really good fixtures as well. So they've got Bournemouth, Palace, Brighton and Watford in the next 4. They're on form, both of them. So my advice would be, if you don't already have one of those two, you should definitely look at getting one of them in this week. So I've mentioned Ramsey, Sanchez, Lanzini, Oxlade-Chamberlain. Another player I've added is Jordan Ibe. So his stats were really good going into game week 23, and he scored his first goal of the season against Arsenal. He's 4.8 million, so he's a good option as a 5th midfielder. Cheap option. He's posting good shot stats. He had more shots than any other midfielders in the last 4 game weeks. That was going into game week 23. So now that he's got the first goal as well, he's got that. I think it's always in a player's mind if they haven't scored all season. Once they get the first one, we could see a few more from him then. So he's definitely one I'm keeping an eye on as well. I'll talk about him a little bit more when I come to the transfers, because he is someone I was looking at this week. the last player I'll mention, as I say, I don't want to go into too much detail about the watch list every week. Leroy Sané, I think he's played 90 minutes in the last 3 games. So I've got Sterling. So Sané is obviously another option at a similar price. I'm just jumping into his stats here as well. So he's 8.4. Yeah, so he's played 90 minutes in the last 3 games. He's got a goal. He's got an assist. So he scored a goal against Liverpool. Karius probably should have saved it, but Sané, he went off the boil. He was hot property a couple of weeks ago, a couple of weeks back, around game week 10. He went off the boil a little bit then. He started on the bench a couple of times and people lost interest. So Sterling's the man most people have been on for the last couple of weeks, but I think Sané's a really good option now again. Now that he looks like he could be starting most weeks and getting 90 minutes as well. So if you don't have a City midfielder, there's probably not many people who don't, but Sané's definitely worth considering now as well. He's only 12% owned, so he could be a bit of a differential in some of your mini leagues. I'll leave it there for the watch list this week. I wanna with these podcasts, I wanna keep them to 30 minutes maximum. I wanna keep them short, to the point. So I'm not gonna ramble on too much. What I will do is I'll roughly name out the players that I've got on my watch list currently. So I've got 20 players on the watch list. So I've got no goalkeepers. I mentioned last week I don't keep goalkeepers on the watch list because I don't change it too often. I've only got 1 striker on the watch list, which says a lot about this season. There's just been a severe lack of strikers. So Aguero's on the watch list. He's the only striker. I looked at getting him in this week. I'll talk about that soon. So defenders, I don't have any United players. Their clean sheets hurt me every week, so I really need to look at getting a United defender in, or even De Gea in goal. I'm going to have to move Pope on probably at some point with Tom Heaton coming back, so maybe it's an option to go to De Gea then. Phil Jones is the one I would like. I'm probably not going to do it this week because there's other areas of the pitch I want to improve on, but I really should be getting a United defender in as soon as possible. Luke Shaw is one I'm keeping a close eye on as well, so I've got Shaw and Jones on the watch list. Shaw has played the last 4 games, played 90 minutes in the last 4, but I'm still not convinced he's got that spot nailed down. I'd like to give it another week or 2 to see if Ashley Young comes back in. If it's a case that Shaw plays the next 2, that'll be 6 games on the bounce. Then I think it'll be time after the Spurs game to look at getting him in. So that would be a good saving on Jones if he can make that left back spot his own. So after Spurs in game week 25, United have got Huddersfield, Newcastle, Chelsea, Palace. So it would be a good time to get him in then. So more than likely I'm going to go without United defence again for Burnley away in game week 24. Again, they're probably going to get another clean sheet. It's probably going to hurt my rank, but as I say, there's other areas of the pitch this week that are more important to me to fix. So quickly run through the watch list. Defenders, I've got Phil Jones, Luke Shaw, Van Dijk, John Stones, Ben Davis, Harry Maguire, and the cheap option is Dummett from Newcastle. As I say, Aguero's my only striker on the watch list, and I've got an array of midfielders then. So Mahrez, Eriksen, Son, Sanchez, Lingard, Pogba, Ramsey, Mane, Arnautovic, Lanzini, Chamberlain, and Jordan Ibe. So that's the 20 players I'm looking at the moment. I'm gonna talk now about my transfers for game week 24. So as I say, I had 2 free transfers saved for this week with the view of doing some surgery because I'm carrying a bit of dead weight. I've had Calvert-Lewin, who's no longer an option now with Towson. Richarlison's on the chopping block for me as well. I've probably kept faith in him for too long now. Hazard obviously is the big one. He's gone. He's been an absolute nightmare for me. He's been a bit like Diego Costa was for me last season. Every time I don't own Hazard, he hauls want to get him in, he goes quiet. I mean, and I know it's not just me, it's the same for a lot of managers. So obviously the big question I had for Game Week 24 was, do I keep the faith in Hazard with Chelsea's good fixtures coming up, or do I just say goodbye because it's just been too painful? And I just made the decision. I just got sick of looking at him. Every time I logged in, looking at his name, I just couldn't do it anymore. So I just sold him last night. Conte's come out today as well, saying that he's been managing Hazard's fitness because of his ankle surgery during the summer, and he didn't have a pre-season and this and that. So that explains a bit why Hazard's been taken off early in games. I think he came off before 60 minutes at the weekend. I don't think he's played. I think he's only played 90 minutes twice in his last 8 games. So that's pretty frustrating if you're investing, over 10.5 million in a player, and obviously he's not producing the goods either. Well, he's not producing them when I've got him anyway. So I've just cut ties with Hazard, and I'm not going to say I'm definitely not going to get him back in at any point this season, but it's definitely going to be a few weeks before I even consider him again, because he's just been so frustrating. So transfer wise, what I looked at first of all for Game Week 24 was Aguero. City have 2 very nice fixtures coming up. They've got Newcastle home and West Brom at home, and even they've got Burnley away then, which is not too bad either. So Aguero was on my mind to bring him in for the Newcastle and West Brom fixtures. We remember what he did against Newcastle a couple of seasons ago, scoring 5 goals in about 25 minutes. So obviously the potential is there for Aguero to go big against these kind of sides. Jesus is out injured for a couple of weeks, so he should start. I mean, everything points towards getting him in. My only City player in Game Week 23 was Sterling, so I'm going to hang on to Sterling. So that's my one City player going into Game Week 24, but I just felt I wanted another one. To get Aguero, the most obvious move would be to move Firmino on for Aguero, but I'm pretty happy with Firmino. I'm pretty happy to keep him. I only got him back in there a couple of weeks ago, and he delivered at the weekend. And fixture wise, he's got Swansea away and Huddersfield away in his next 2, so really good fixtures as well when you compare it to Aguero. And obviously it's a much cheaper price as well. So I'm going to hold Firmino. I didn't like the idea of going Firmino to Aguero. I almost felt it's a bit of a sideways move almost. So then another option I looked at was, instead of getting rid of Firmino for Aguero, it was to get rid of Calvert-Lewin for Aguero, and then downgrading Hazard to someone like Jordan Ibe. But I just didn't really like the balance of my team then. So if I got in Ibe and Aguero, it would leave my midfield with Jordan Ibe and Loftus-Cheek. So it's 2 cheap midfielders, which I didn't really like the look of. I much prefer a more balanced squad. So again, Ibe's got his first goal, and his stats are good, but I'm still not convinced that he's probably not a player I'd like to have to play every week. I'm not sure how much he can offer week in, week out. And obviously his place in the team is probably not 100% nailed on, even though he's been playing very well. He's hard to drop at the moment, but 1 or 2 bad games he could find himself at rotation risk again. So that was the Aguero idea out the window really. So as an alternative, what I've done is, for Hazard, I've gone for Kevin De Bruyne. So I think he's the top scoring midfielder in FPL so far, and it's just an easier transfer, because if I went for Aguero, more than likely I'm going to want to get rid of Aguero again at some point. With De Bruyne, there's a good chance I'll just get him now and keep him until the end of the season, so that way I'm not really wasting the transfer down the line on De Bruyne. And I mean, from what I've seen of him recently, he's been superb. He's running the show for City, and he's getting forward. He's creating loads of chances, and he can get on the score sheet any week as well. So Hazard to De Bruyne is a pretty easy transfer for me, given City's fixtures and given how much I hate Eden Hazard. So De Bruyne is in for Hazard. That obviously saved me a few bob as well. So that was my first free transfer. So I'm going into game week 24 with Sterling and De Bruyne as my City players. Calvert-Lewin was a player who had to go for me this week as well. So I've got rid of him and I've brought in Callum Wilson from Bournemouth. So Wilson's always a player. He's a player I've always been a fan of. He's been very unlucky with injuries, but he seems to have put those behind him now in recent weeks, and he's been playing very well. I think he's got 3 goals in his last 4 games now. So he scored against Arsenal at the weekend. Good fixtures: West Ham, Stoke, Huddersfield and Newcastle in the next 5. So I'm just double checking his stats. Yeah, so he's got 3 goals and an assist in his last 4 games. So he's got the form and he's got the fixtures. Defoe's out injured. Josh King seems to have picked up an injury as well now. So Wilson's place in the Bournemouth side looks pretty safe. So by bringing Wilson in, I'm moving back to my old trusted 3-4-3 formation, which served me so well in the past. Obviously, a lot of people are playing 3-5-2 with so many good options in midfield, but I'm quite happy to go back to 3-4-3 now with Wilson and De Bruyne. So I'm quite confident Wilson can produce the goods over the next 5 or 6 weeks. The thing I like about a Bournemouth striker is no matter who Bournemouth play, you know they're going to attack, so they're going to get chances. You've seen it against Arsenal. They took the game to Arsenal and they beat them, so I would have no problem starting Wilson in game week 25 against Chelsea, because at least you know they're going to have a go. So that's my 2 free transfers. Hazard out for De Bruyne and Calvert-Lewin is out for Callum Wilson. I usually don't make transfers early, but I was set to lose a lot of value this week if I didn't move early, because Hazard was dropping last night. Calvert-Lewin is probably going to drop tonight, and Wilson is looking like rising tonight as well. So I want to act early. It's pretty low risk. I mean, De Bruyne doesn't play during the week. Bournemouth are playing tomorrow, I think, in the Cup, but I wouldn't really expect Wilson to play in that one. So that should be okay, fingers crossed. I'm looking at a third transfer. Richarlison is the one I'm probably looking to move on. I really want Arnautovic. So I didn't need to make that move yet because financially it's okay. Richarlison might actually drop in price tonight, so I may look at doing it tonight. West Ham, as I record, West Ham are playing in the Cup. Arnautovic was on the bench for that one and Lanzini started, so I wanted to let that one peter out first to make sure Arnautovic comes through it without picking up an injury. So I may move Richarlison on tonight for Arnautovic. I've been extremely impressed with Arnautovic since David Moyes took over. He's, as I say, he's playing up front basically, and he's a very talented footballer. His temperament lets him down at times, but hopefully now, if I bring him in this week, he can behave himself and he can keep producing the goods on the pitch as well. So that's my game week 3 roundup, and I look ahead to game week 24. I'm coming up towards the half an hour mark now, so I'm going to wrap things up. So let me know what you thought of the podcast. I mean, it's only the second one, so I'm just getting used to things. If there's anything you'd like me to add to the podcasts, anything you'd like me to change, just leave me a comment on SoundCloud or even on Twitter, wherever you see that, wherever you're listening to it, just leave a comment and let me know what you think. Support is appreciated as always. So enjoy the rest of your week and good luck for game week 24. Talk soon.